everybody's thinking about how do we get more people in the church? Well, open the church up. It's God's house. Open it up.
And I said, Bishop, I think God is telling you and me that this is our time.
I can see nothing that represents me, not in the pews in terms of the music. I said, nothing invites me.
They pray to these people. They pray to the Lady of Guadalupe, to Saint Bernadette. And in one of the commandments say, thou shalt not have any other God before me.
No false idols.
No false idols. It's not a cultural thing. It's a Catholic thing.
We were raised, we were educated, we were fed, we were taught in a different way. And I believe that I have the right to be different, and they have the right to be different.
When both congregations are together, it's like for me, I feel like God is really strong in this church.
In the name of God, I commission you as new community ministers in the Church of God.
I mean, there were lots of tears of profound joy of being a part of this one big, large, diverse family.
Arrange for a local pastor.
I'm looking for after dinner to just gather the clergy together and have a conversation. The folks in the Latino ministry, when they come together, they always seek a time when can't we just talk together?
I'm saying that we need to include something that is specific to each ethnic group. And even if it's lay Eucharistic ministry, everybody could go. But the fact that we're offering it from a perspective of, say, a Native American.
So I think you just need to go back to what's your objective? What's the reason why it's called New Community?
The ethnic missioners from the Episcopal Church Center devised this gathering in San Diego, California, to celebrate the oneness and at the same time the diversity of what we call the new community, which is the new face of the Episcopal Church.
So reinterpreting our context has to be an across-the-board, cross-cultural conversation. For us to take on a different identity of who we are in the church, not as minority, but as a new community.
A church that respects and honors the dignity of every human being, but also the cultural dignity of its communities.
Next week, I am in my office, at my home office, the entire week. So I've got a few phone call conversations, but I'm pretty much open. So if you would like to work with me on WebEx or whatever phone, I'm willing to dedicate some time.
Oh, be safe.
Okay, okay, bye-bye. You get well, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. I grew up in a small town in Texas. We were definitely a minority. And I never felt that I belonged or that I fit in somehow. There was a tremendous amount of hostility against Mexican Americans. The understanding was that you were not to speak Spanish in any public places. In the first grade, this little boy fell on me and it hurt. And so I yelled out, "Ay," because I didn't know the word ouch. And some of the kids ran and told the teacher that I was speaking Spanish on the playground, and I got spanked for it. I remember spending some time in the bathroom with a Brillo pad and Comet, trying to rub the skin color off my arms. Because I hated it. And even though that experience was painful, and even though that early childhood was painful, I believe that God allowed that experience so that I could be the kind of empathetic, reconciling leader that I am today. Thank you for setting up. Okay? Yeah, I saw you put the placement.
I first met Anthony 12 years ago when filming a congregation he was serving as a priest in Oxnard, California.
As we drove into Oxnard, I felt at home. Oxnard is a city of about 160,000. 64% of our population is Latino. When I came to All Saints, the leadership of the church knew that the church was dying.
We knew that we were here on this corner, 2nd and C Street, with so many Hispanic families around us, that we needed to do something to reach out to these people.
And it was the Spirit of God that brought me to Oxnard. And it was the Spirit of God that moved the Vestry to open themselves to something new and different at All Saints.
We were very hopeful that things would work out well, but we had some naysayers too, and some who just swore up and down that within 6 months our parish would be totally overrun with Hispanics and all of the Anglos would flee and it would be the end of our church.
No habla.
I was raised Roman Catholic, but when I came to this country, I always go to church every Sunday, but I never feel welcome. I never feel that friendship in church. I always come in and out.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
We came, we saw the friendship of everybody. We feel kind of, strange the beginning, but it was beautiful. My mom loves it. We've been receiving a lot from the people, all the congregation, Spanish, and all the Anglos.
We were not going to be paternalistic. We deliberately focused on bringing a community together. The first major step we took was that our later service, which was at the time 10, moved to 11 in order that we might accommodate a Spanish service between our 8 o'clock right one and our more contemporary family service at 11.
I said buenos dias to one of the little ladies as she came into the church, and I from then on she thought I was friendly, well, which I am, and so I can't deny that. Anyway, so she waits for me at the end of my service before her service starts, and she hugs and kisses me. Now her daughter does too. It is so warm to have that kind of relationship.
Father Anthony has these potlucks every once in a while, try to get us together. But most of the Hispanic people that come to this church don't speak English, and you have a hard time having anything to do with them. When we have the potlucks, they'll all sit in their little groups, and the others will sit in their little groups. And there's a couple that we can talk to, but not many because they don't speak English.
Looking for a place for Guadalupe and I.
I know this kitchen inside out, so it wasn't a big deal to come in and get everything ready. But I had a little flash of, well, who's going to help clean up? But looked up from my dish doing and stuff to see that it was all being taken care of. And this was a lot of the Hispanic people who were volunteering to do this.
It was like a divided church for a while, but it isn't anymore. They're getting closer together.
The Hispanic community celebrates the Day of the Dead. And the first time that Anthony had us celebrate that here, it was kind of for some people, it was shocking.
And it was so Anthony could bring the people into the church, and it drove some other people out of the church. But it was nice. It was different. Father Anthony had it set up really nice out there with the Mexican cloths on the table and pictures and everything.
And I remember bringing a book that my husband that had been a favorite of his, and his baseball cap. and putting it there because we were encouraged to bring pictures of our deceased loved ones and something that they liked. And it was nice.
My vision was that we would be the new Episcopal Church that I see coming. A church that was going to be diverse, a church that was going to be welcoming, a church that would worship in the tradition of the church, but at the same time be open to other music styles, other liturgy styles. It hasn't been painless, it hasn't been effortless, but it also hasn't been real hard. We've just opened ourselves.
The scripture that we read says that when the Spirit came, it sounded like a strong wind, and it seemed like there were tongues of fire. Algo como fuego y viento. I have felt the power of the Spirit in my life. It's like an invisible wind that comes behind me and moves me along in my life.
Some 10 years ago or so, I felt pushed to move to Mexico. I served the church there for 4 years.
I had never wanted to learn Spanish. I'd never wanted to speak it. I had never wanted to be identified with those people. And suddenly I was in a place where people embraced me. They made me feel at home. I saw the beauty in things that I had determined to be inferior. Having grown up being ashamed was changed to being proud of my culture that I had negated.
At the same time, as a priest, I struggled. And at the end of 4 years, I hit bottom. My wife and I separated, which ended up in divorce. My bishop was suspended me as a priest. I couldn't function as a priest. One morning, I was shaving in front of the mirror. As I looked into my eyes, I said, "Anthony, you're a good person, and I wish that you could love yourself because you've got a lot to give." I've been broken and healed. I've been at the bottom and I've been lifted up. And those things stay with me every day in ministry. We ended our worship with, "Here I am, Lord." People said I had tears in my eyes because it just felt like the words spoke to me. What they're finding here is a place where they can think, where they can ask questions, where they can utilize the gifts that God's given them. And I'm seeing it as they're taking up leadership, as they're raising their hand and saying, "I can do that."
When I'm helping Father Anthony in the altar, I can feel God in me. I feel something in my body. Sometimes it makes me cry. When I had my last problem with my husband, I came to Father Anthony. He listens like your father, like he's your father, like he wants to do everything for you. He wants to give everything.
Recently, I returned to All Saints to see what's happened there over the past 12 years and what lessons it might hold.
Amén. Demos gracias a Dios nuestro Señor. The Lord be with you. And also with you. Lift up your heart.
The
Father Anthony left, we've had a succession of different people here.
We probably had like about 4 or 5 priests that they changed, you know. They be here only for a year.
When they come and they go like that, you feel like you're not wanted. I've cried over it sometimes.
Peace of the Lord, Mary. God bless you. Peace of the Lord be with you. Peace of the Lord. But in the long run, I always say God knows what he's doing because it made our church and it made the congregants much stronger.
We all used to come in and pray. We kept remembering that we are the church, we made the church, and we're going to stay.
It pulled us together and gave us that power to, we can do it on our own.
We are the church. It's not the building. It's us. We make the church.
The other issue was the gay issue in the life of the church. We lost almost all of the 8 o'clock parishioners.
Lord, when was it that we saw you angry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not take care of you?
El rey les contestará, les aseguro que todo lo que hicieron por uno de estos hermanos más humildes de mí.
The other good thing in the church now is Pastor Melissa. And she has only been here a couple of months. This is a whole different church than it was before she came.
She's really pulled this congregation together. Like I said, God always provides.
I wanted to give thank you to Christine because you weren't present at the last Vestry meeting for the priest position description. It was very helpful. Good. Thank you, and nice and concise too.
It started out with our vestry being almost all from the Anglo congregation. And now we're 50-50. And so everyone has a voice.
Melissa, as far as the Latinos, I think the most important thing is that you make sure they're involved and they're engaged. And it's their church too, and that's going to be important. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to feel very included.
Yes, that's the important piece. That's spot on. It's been really exciting for me to be here so far. This congregation really has a level of integration of its multicultural identity. So one of my big tasks has been being pastorally present and helping. There's always a little bit of a healing process in transition, and also affirming those pieces of the multicultural identity that are so strong here.
I'm very involved in the community, and I like to see when there's unity in the community, and I think All Saints has helped contribute to some of that unity.
It's like when both congregations are together, it's like for me, I feel like God is really strong in this church.
We got together, we did the cleaning in the morning. Then we make the Advent wreaths, and we are together because this is our church and we have to take care of not only the building but each other.
Well, I think they're both going to be beautiful because you're going to put all sorts of...
Melissa has been very open about her sexual orientation. I think 2 families left.
Melissa invited them in to talk, and they came and talked to her, and she listened to them and said, you go with my blessing, and if you're always welcome back in the church.
If you are the person who is identifying as gay or lesbian and in leadership, to sort of know that not everybody is going to be where you're at, and you have to be okay with that, and just be loving and accepting of them where they're at too.
In the past, did you come in the past? Oh, when I was a wee lad.
It's been many, many moons.
Once you start building the personal relationships, then the bigger issues about inclusion of gay and lesbian persons in all of the sacraments and so forth become a lot clearer, because folks start realizing these are just folks like me.
Prefiero hacer otras actividades, verme con mis amigas, ir a algún cumpleaños, una cosa así. Pero eso de andar...
This church is helping me a lot, especially now on this time, you know, with, I'm sorry, without my husband. My husband passed away 6 months ago. He hurt so much. We were married for 38 years. I was asking God, where are you? Tell me something. You let my husband go. Why? I was blaming him for taking my husband away from me. I heard a lot of people here from my congregation. They were telling me he was suffering and God wanted to take him. That's when I said, God, please forgive me. I know you are here with me. I always feel you next to me, and thank you for your help.
I left All Saints after 13 years. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. My experience at All Saints and the stories that I gathered from other places helped me to know that we needed to provide a vision on how to help the church grow, how to develop successful Latino ministries. Call Annalene, firm all this up, and I will get back with you in the next, in about 2 hours. A lot of what I do is bring teams of people together to work on very specific projects. Okay. One of those projects is the church's strategic vision for reaching Latino Hispanics. Okay.
Yo le envío en la mañana, ya quedarían faltando 3 meses, 4 meses.
One of the things that we learned that was pointed out actually by Carla Fernandez from San Antonio. And she said to me after she had read all of the different documents, she said, do you notice where they start from? And I said, no, I don't think that I could say that I do. They're all saying that Latinos are poor, that they're immigrant, and that they've just arrived, and that they're monolingual. We both looked at each other and it's like, but we're not all poor, just arrived, monolingual, Spanish speaking, we're so diverse. There were more of us who were bilingual and bicultural than there were monolingual Spanish speakers. That there were more of us who had been here for generations than those who had just arrived. One of the principal pieces of the vision is that the Episcopal Church was losing a major evangelistic opportunity if we did not shift gears and intentionally make our church known to second, third, and fourth generation Latinos, many of whom are actually English speakers.
When I pray in English, I don't feel it. When I pray in Spanish, I really feel it. When I sing, I feel it too.
And not only for my mom, but for me, even though I understand English well and read well, when it is in Spanish, I really feel that I'm connected in a way that it's hard to explain.
When I talk to God, I speak to Him in Spanish instead of English.
United States is the second largest Latino country in the world, after Mexico and before Spain. Not only are we a large population, but we're also a young population. By 2050, approximately 1 out of every 3 Americans will be a Latino.
The opportunity to begin Latino ministry began at All Saints Church when a Latino social worker, Father Bernardo Iniesta Avila, offered his services to begin a congregation in his spare time and totally uncompensated. So he and his wife went door to door and brought people in and started a really dynamic congregation.
Te he conocido a ti, a tu papá, a Sergio, a María, por algunos años. Enojadita venía mi niña, pero a través del tiempo, hija, decía Frank Kafka, hay una metamorfosis positiva.
We see the families and I know their stories, their lives since they were children. They have opened the book of their life, which is very sacred. And those stories, they are very dear to me.
You think you're cool and you think you think you can beat me? Come over here and fight me. And if you beat me, we're all going to be your slaves. Okay, next person read, please. Goliath challenged the girls every morning and evening for 40 days. This has been going on for days, and Goliath is out there just screaming and yelling at us, and we're scared.
I like to talk about two families because they're still with us today. One of the families, his oldest daughter, fell into drugs. And so a lot of separation, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety with them. The girls came into my class. They waited outside the door. And she says when the girls came out, they were smiling. Her daughters are doing well, and there's happiness and harmony, and they're home again, and they're all together, and every Sunday it's a weekly ritual now. Always they come to church.
Adelante, adelante.
¿Tu bebé? Oh my gosh. And when they say, we thank you for that. And that's our motivation.
And when the Latino population, when you do something for them, with your heart, with your mind, you do something, they will never forget that. They are your friends. They'll be with you. And they'll do, for God, for the church, whatever you ask them.
You guys, all my students, please go inside the church. I need you guys to sit at the front. Grab your books, make sure you have your books inside. I've been teaching for about a year and a half. Yeah, I love it. Like, I started with one of the other catechism teachers because I'm 16, and I would help her translate in English.
Están participando ya ahí en el coro, están participando en una cosa, en otra actividad. Y no sé, es algo que la gente lo hace sentir, una hermandad que hay.
Una hermandad.
Una hermandad, nuevos que van llegando para que sientan a gusto también. Que sientan lo que nosotros sentimos cuando llegamos, el aplauso que le dan a uno cuando llega. Es algo más, eso no nomás es personal, sino es familiar ya, ¿verdad? No nada más para uno, sino para toda la familia.
We were impressed by what they were doing at All Saints Church. We would like to expand it, but did not feel that we had the resources, either monetarily or skills or a clue as to where to begin. And it was when we saw the strategic plan for Latino ministries, we thought, okay, here's a model that we can follow. And there are people who will support us and guide us and consult with us and help us to do this right. St. Luke's is a Filipino congregation. It is located in the midst of a heavily Latino neighborhood. When Father Ilario came here, we added the Latino service in the afternoon.
And I say, Darío, you are my inspiration, ¿verdad, Darío?
Thank you.
Gracias, Darío.
Gracias.
Este es Darío, mi amigo Darío. Ok, gracias. A ver, mira, give me 5. Yeah. Híjole.
En cuanto a las fechas y los tiempos, hermanos, no necesitan que les escribamos. Ustedes saben muy bien que el día del regreso del Señor llegará.
Yo, como he dado testimonio anteriormente, yo vengo de una iglesia evangélica, ¿verdad? Ahí se lee la palabra también y todo eso, pero realmente mi espíritu no encontraba aquella... Yo sufría de sed, de hambre, ¿verdad? Espiritual, y no la encontraba, Padre. Bueno, anteriormente yo vivía una vida desordenada, o sea, triste en mi espíritu, porque realmente yo estaba enfermo del alma, porque yo estaba fallado de la palabra del Señor, que hasta llegué a renegar en contra de Él.
I think one of my abilities or my gifts as a priest is just to be there and listen. But because when I am listening, I'm praying inside also, Lord, please give me the light, the direction to hold these hands and to hold this person and try to together walk ahead and find direction.
And then I said, look into my eyes, I changing for real. I tell her, forgive me for all bad things I did to you. I am a new person like Nicodemo.
After General Convention, I went to Las Vegas. I left there and I kept thinking, this is some place where it would be worth some investment. So I approached the bishop a few months later and said that I was willing to offer $35,000 to assist them in revitalizing 2 small congregations. Last month, we went to Las Vegas to visit the congregations of St. Matthew, San Mateo, and St. Thomas, Santo Tomas, to see firsthand what the results were of this initiative.
What do we do with the knowledge that Christ gives us? Do we keep it to ourselves? Do we share it? Do we include everybody?
We should, but the majority of us do not do that. Or if we try, there are people who just don't want to hear it.
And also you have to deal with what is the tradition of the people that you're talking to. You grew up a certain way believing what you believe. But if they come in and say, this is what I believe this way and this is why I believe this way, are we as willing to open not only our hearts but our minds and at least try to understand that? How the Hispanic ministry started in here was there is a need because St. Thomas has been an ebb and flow thing. We started as a congregation for Nellis Air Force Base. And we'd get an influx of people and they'd be reassigned and go somewhere else. And it's been that way since St. Thomas existed. Everybody's thinking about how do we get more people in the church? And my thought was, well, open the church up. It's God's house. Open it up.
First time I attended St. Thomas, it just felt like we were at home.
When we walked in, Doña Ruth asked all the kids, let's go. We have to go to Catecismo. So my kids went. Our kids were the type of kids that never wanted to go to church. And for them to say, okay, and just go without knowing her, that was like a big thing for me, like, oh my God, I'm coming back.
En aquel tiempo, tomaré una lámpara y registraré Jerusalén.
My sister asked me if I could read something out of the Bible. And to me, that was like another level because all my life, going to church, you were never asked. We not only come to church now, but we serve God. I feel that we're closer And we're able to now see from the altar down how people come, and you can see their sorrow and serving the chalice and giving the bread, you know, how they can heal. And it feels really, really good.
Y del Espíritu Santo, ustedes responden. Amén. Sécamele, sécamele. Hugo Mauricio, yo te bautizo en el nombre del Padre. Joseph Osorio, yo te bautizo en el nombre del Padre y del Hijo.
My first 2 years here, before the Latino Ministries, there were no confirmations. And then each time there are 20, 25 teenagers to confirm and baptize.
What about to the youth? Wow, bravo. I went to Camp Galilee to have fun and to learn. Bravo.
We are often baptizing teenagers, which means that these are families who have been disconnected from the sacraments and from the pastoral and spiritual support of the church for at least 15 years. When that happens, it's not me just putting my hands on their head to convey the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is moving both ways in there, and that's what gives me the energy and joy for what I do.
The gifts of God for the people of God. Take them in remembrance that Christ died for you.
Siempre que lo beban, háganlo como memorial mío. Señor mío y Dios mío, creo en ti, pero aumenta mi poca fe.
I met with St. Matthew's, and the emphasis was, this is not going to be Father Hilario's ministry or this separate Latino congregation. It is one congregation that will offer worship in 2 languages, but it is one congregation. So my question is, how has this been for you and for St. Matthew's?
I think it's a continuing adventure for us. I would say that unlike some adventures that you might be involved in, there hasn't been a whole lot of scary negativity in this one.
At the beginning, how leery some of the folks are, and I was one of them. I have been incredibly, pleasingly surprised, pleasantly surprised. It's been wonderful to me. I haven't seen any of the things that I was kind of worried about, like, well, a language barrier, but it's not that bad. Just something new, because St. Matthew's doesn't do new well, some of us. Not only that, I believe that service at 2 o'clock is bigger than the one at 10. So, which means that it's meeting an incredible need that we were not meeting.
My reaction is that that's a congregation that has the most fun. They do really interesting things.
And it seems as if there are more celebrations, which is fine with us, but that I'm not familiar with at all.
And it's so delightful to see so many young people here.
There's a couple that comes with a little boy and a little girl, and I don't even know their names. But when I come from Vestry and we're kind of trying to sneak out of here, those 2 kids attack me every time, with the big hugs, which I like. Yeah, sure, all my grandkids are on the East Coast, so I gotta have somebody's.
Well, some of us came because we ran away from our kids.
We've actually thought about the possibility of advertising St. Matthew's, at least the Anglo congregations, as grandparents in search of grandchildren.
Wow.
We haven't gone through with that yet, but we've been thinking about it. We've always had the perspective around here that it takes a village.
Have there been some challenges, some struggles?
We have the language thing, and Hilario has the schedule from Hex, so he's trying to keep everybody balanced, and he can't be here all the time.
These guys are having to run from service to service to service across 40 miles of packed freeways, and it takes away from what they can give to any one particular service.
When your family grows, you just push the room around a little bit.
Right. We partnered with St. Matthew's. We also agreed to begin the ministry at St. Thomas. However, my time did not permit me to provide the training at both congregations. So I only met with the people and the leader and the clergy of St. Matthew's. Nonetheless, it reinforces the need for doing that preparation work.
I think it has been a very good year in that we have worked together. The Hispanic Ministries have had some people come forth and did the painting of the outside of our church. They did a very good job. We appreciate it. It was well needed. And there have been other things that, we've come together and worked together to accomplish our goals. And I think it's been a very good relationship.
When we had the fundraiser and everybody came out after the Hispanic service and we were already having dinner, that we should think of more opportunities like that because we were surrounded by children. It was so much fun.
And I saw people talking to each other, people staying here, eating together without any worries.
This is a matter of keep our vision working. This is what I think. It has been also a time of learning because as my duties as a pastor together with him is educate our people. And educate means sometimes to...
And in turn, for Tim to educate his people,
yes,
us, as to, how both of our cultures can work together.
Yes.
Oh, sigh.
Yes. One of a specific topic of education that I will bring to the table and I would like to explore a little bit more is the presence of Our Lady of Guadalupe here as the Virgin Mary in the advocation of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So for both sides of both cultures together, because we are blending.
Not all Episcopalians understand the importance or who Our Lady of Guadalupe is, and there's been often conflict and hurt feelings and misunderstandings around just that one piece.
Well, I think the biggest challenge, period, is the language barrier. So you can't communicate. And without communication, you have nothing. Plain and simple.
I believe that our differences in the way that we worship, like the Guadalupe, those can be overcome, just as we did with Guadalupe, and came together as one and said, okay, this is how we can compromise, and it's worked so far.
I have a whole side of the family that is all Catholic. And they pray to these people. They pray to the Lady of Guadalupe, to Saint Bernadette. And in one of the commandments say, thou shalt not have any other God before me.
No false idols.
No false idols. It's not a cultural thing. It's a Catholic thing.
God always sent the messengers to the world. In the old times, sent the prophets. In Jesus' time, sent Mary, his mother.
When people passed away, do they see us? Do they take care of us here in earth? Is my husband see me? My son tell me, yes, he does. I know my dad is here with me.
I believe in angels, and then I believe in the spirit of my father, who passed away already 21 years ago. Is always with me, taking care of me, making sure I am in a safe place.
I talk to my husband a lot, and I talk to Virgin de Guadalupe every night. I tell her, you have him close, give him a hug for me. Tell him how much I love him.
They are a professional person one day, but you have to study hard. You have to obey your daddy. He is a very good man.
In my estimation, the future of Latinos in this country, the future of Latino ministry in this church is not Spanish language, but rather it's Latino culture. It's knowing and appreciating and valuing the Latino culture.
I don't think you should focus too much on their attitudes or their feelings, because with the passage of time, their attitudes will change and their way of seeing what's happening in their church will change as well.
I'm a team player. I am not a lone ranger. So, yeah, and I want to be like that. And sometimes I feel alone here. I'm frustrated.
Doing ministry is not easy. We were raised, we were educated, we were fed, we were taught in a different way. And I believe that I have the right to be different, and they have the right to be different. And somehow the journey and our intention is to build a family, so we need to start with, not with them, but with myself.
What keeps me going are the comments that I hear from the Anglos. And we keep hearing from so many people, are you going to help us in this event? Because when you're here, it's so much fun. and it's taken a lot of work to get there, you see. And then, you talk to the families, and when they tell you, I have not set foot in a church in 20 years. And my first day here in this church, I felt like I belonged. Mm-hmm. And that should be a driving force.
Again, I just say that missionary sort of zeal, opportunity, it's just like, I want to be a part of that. 4 years ago, you started one church, and you've got 4 congregations. It
has been, for Latinos, a life changer. It is also important for the Anglos. And it invites them, sometimes there's a struggle, but it invites them to a kind of transformation. It calls upon them to open their already open hearts a bit wider.
A lot of people have that deep-seated prejudice in them, and I think what's breaking down is they're starting to change their minds, and that's the important thing. They're starting to look at people differently than they used to.
That confronts people with the changing quality of grace.
The ones that say Espanol means that there's interpretation. All the workshops are in English.
I can see nothing that represents me, not in the pews in terms of the music, not in the music that's sung by the choir. I said, nothing invites me.
We want the immigrants, we want for them to come, but we also want not to let the children get lost in first generation poverty or cells.
Or to have the first generation exclude the second generation.
But of course.
So she said, suddenly we had an image of Jesus and they changed it for the Vineyard of Guadalupe, and I really didn't like that, so I left the church.
At last, we are beginning to implement what we're about to show to the world. God has called us all to be a family, a community, and as disciples and followers of Jesus, what better example can we give to a divided, broken, and fractured world?
And I have a new friend. We were talking, he's Latino, and I'm Navajo, when we were talking about the differences that we were having. Well, the people who come up from Mexico, they see my church is up on a hill, and it's this old stucco church with a white cross. They wanted to go into the chapel and pray. So I opened the door, and I let them go in. They prayed, and they came back out, and then they said, "Where's the padre?" No, well, they would said, "Padre" to me, and I went, he looked at me up and down, and I said, Mama, Padre.
Sometimes I hear folks say new communities, and I'd like to encourage you to use the term new community. It is one community that we are speaking of, not many communities. As the ethnic population of the church was beginning to grow, and we'd often been referred to as the minorities, we want to give a new model and a new word to frame the beauty of the church today. We are one community with many different cultures, different traditions, different languages, but we're one community. Welcome to the new community.
Liturgy comes alive when you have different languages, different music, different readings.
Evangelio de nuestro Señor Jesucristo según San Lucas.
Gloria a ti, Señor.
Oyate wa oyate tokeja mayas ya pia ktashni na ichimani kichaza pikta.
Na hiwe kanyi nabaye okuba nibe hindlu ka nkulunkulu ngomoya. Hear the word of the Lord.
This is what the church should look like. This is what the church should be like. So, new community, go for it.
I remember when at General Convention in 1985, when Presiding Bishop Edmund Browning was elected, and he spoke those sort of prophetic words about, in this church there will be no outcasts. And those were, I mean, I still remember how that touched my soul. The new community is a realization and a confirmation of that journey. The beauty and the richness of the Asians and the blacks and the indigenous and the Latinos and the rest of the church. It's all of us together.
In the name of God, I commission you as new community ministers in the Church of God.
I think it's taken the ethnic communities to be the leaders in this, to show us how we can walk together.
Modeling for the church and the world a way going forward.
To reconcile the world to God and one another in Christ.
Last year, my father died, and just a few months before he died, he and I had been visiting at his house. He said, "Who would have ever imagined that you'd be doing the work that you're doing today And I looked at him, I said, yeah, Daddy, huh? I said, who would have imagined? And we didn't say anything for a little bit afterwards. We just sort of enjoyed the moment.